Ministering Angels by Lori A. Thompson. Chapter 38. Manipulation. Cameron looks over at Joe, hoping he won't react to the vibrations that are coming from the ground. Cameron can feel himself get anxious. Joe isn't looking up or away from the fire. Cameron wants some kind of indication from Joe that he is with him. Yet he can't tip off Dan and the holes. Dan's influence begins to feel like added weight. "What do you see in the fire?" asks Dan. "Can't you see for yourself?" questions Cameron. "Of course I can see when it is my fire," states Dan aggressively. Cameron can feel Dan getting agitated, which only makes Cameron even more impatient. Cameron rubs his forehead, gripping his temples, as he begins to question his ability to manage the building intensity within him. Dan can tell something is up. He moves in even closer to Cameron. "Cameron, what did you see?" Dan speaks in an irritating tone, as he considers the possibility of Cameron keeping secrets from him. "No!" Cameron yells out. Cameron is using the moment to speak out and get Joe's attention. It works. Joe looks up over at Cameron. Joe identifies the look on Cameron's face as desperation, which triggers his protective instincts successfully, breaking through his hypnotic state. "I want to help." Joe steps forward, offering himself over to Cameron. Cameron has never been in this position before, and the pressure of having to lead Joe is too much. Cameron's pierced lips and scrunched face looks like he has just swallowed something bitter. His chest begins to burn as Cameron refuses to allow his body release any built-up tension. Joe runs around the star-shaped fire and grabs Cameron by the arm, disregarding any fear that he might be sabotaging Cameron's plan. "Cameron, let's do this," Joe barks, looking into Cameron's eyes, waiting for his reflection of trust and confidence to show up on his face. Cameron's face tightens even more and his shoulders begin to quiver. Everything in him wants to belt out a cry, which Cameron is desperately holding back. Joe begins throwing out ideas, realizing Cameron's frozen state is not about to soften upon command. "I can get more wood. I can help you with the fire. Do you need help with that?" Cameron just shook his head. "No." "Should we leave?" "Cameron, we can leave." Cameron admittedly shook his head. "No," again. "Do you want me to put out the fire? I can go get water. I can douse this fire easily." "No, no!" Cameron snaps at Joe in disagreement. "Water," Cameron states out loud, and instantly his body and face relax. Cameron rubs his face again as he tries to grab hold of a faint idea which has floated into his mind. Desperately trying to lock it in place, Cameron firmly holds his forehead. Cameron begins beckoning from within him to grab hold of any last bit of courage. Like a puzzle, when the last piece is placed, Cameron embraces his plan. Cameron reaches out to hold Joe's arm with a new look of hope on his face. Looking into Joe's eyes, Cameron speaks directly to Dan. "Dan, let's teach Joe." Dan shifts his sight to focus on just Joe. Cameron can see that Dan is drawn to the idea as he feels Dan move next to Joe. Dan's eyes round out and his eyebrows lift, tantalized by the possibility of earthbound leadership submitting to his revised plan. Not yet completely convinced, Dan pulls back with an inquisitive expression. "What, Dan?" asks Cameron. "He's so far behind. He's stubborn. I would need him to learn quickly." "Dan, he was that way before, but now he has seen more. We can use him," Cameron states in an attempt to convince Dan. "I can show you something, Dan." Joe can't see or hear Dan, but in his effort to support Cameron, Joe baits Dan with a secret. "What would you have to show me?" questions Dan. "He doesn't believe you," Cameron conveys to Joe. Dan's response. "I can show you a place on the island that no one but I know about," Joe continues to lure Dan. Ha! Dan puffs into the air a quick laugh of disbelief. I've been everywhere on this island. There isn't anything you can show me that I haven't already seen. I need to see what is in that fire, more than I need you guys wasting my time venturing back over old knowledge. Dan points to the fire to redirect the purpose of the conversation. Cameron shook his head no, revealing to Joe that Dan has not reconsidered. There's a place in the cavern. It holds power, more power than anything you have discovered in this island, Joe states with confidence. I've been in the cavern. I've seen all that is down there. Cameron shakes his head yes to cue Joe. Cameron notices a shift in Dan's tone, leading him to believe Joe has successfully sparked Dan's curiosity. I have hunted every inch of this island, Dan, in search of food. I didn't tell anyone because those boys wouldn't understand the importance of this finding. You, Dan, you can understand. We don't need to do this now, Dan motions to the holes, commanding their attention around the fire. Cameron's face expresses a troubling concern when Dan shifts off topic. Dan, Joe spoke loudly, demanding Dan's attention. There is going to be an event. It's going to demonstrate its power. It is very rare for it to show itself. Don't you want to see it? How do you know about this event? He wants to know how you know about the event, explains Cameron. I saw it in the fire, Joe explains. Dan stands in silence, just looking at Joe and Cameron, considering what he should do with this added information. Okay, let's go, Dan finally agrees. Consider this your first test, Joe. This will be your first and last test. We don't have time to try to work things out when plans fail me. This is your moment to show me what you can offer the cause. He'll come, Cameron communicates Dan's concession. We will meet you in the cavern. Dan and the holes transform into bright white butterflies. They fly over their heads, around the fire, and then withdraw themselves to the trees. Now that the holes and Dan have departed, Cameron and Joe are able to speak freely. Did you feel the vibration? Joe asked Cameron. Yes, I did, answers Cameron. Did you see the event in the fire? Yes, Cameron. Yes, I did. What are we going to do once we get down there? Cameron questions Joe. I have no idea. Brad's thoughts are interrupted as Nathan begins to stir. Brad brushes Nathan's hair off his forehead with his fingertips, then grasps the side of Nathan's face with his thumb resting on his cheek. Feel better? Nathan pushes himself up, hoping the difference in elevation doesn't trigger another painful strike in his brain. When nothing happens, Nathan breathes a sigh of relief. Am I marked? What? Is that why I had those headaches? No. Nathan, why would you think that? Dan told me he was marked. I figure that's how the holes get to you, by some kind of mark. What do you mean, get to you? Like that's how they find you. We need to get out of here, Nathan. Brad stands as he tries to change the subject. Brad's hope is for Nathan to follow the diversion. Nathan stands and blindly mimics Brad's lead, but continues his effort to release the block. I don't get it. Dan acts as if I was the enemy. Nathan looks directly at Brad and frankly states what seems to be impossible to him. You went with her and then returned to the island, yet you don't know what it means when Dan wants to check me for a mark. Brad has never been confronted with such surety and candidness. Brad knows at that moment he has a choice. He does not have to answer Nathan's question. Brad is completely capable of getting himself and Nathan out of that room and off the island without any further discussion of Dan or markings. Brad can see that it isn't curiosity that guides Nathan's questions. It is the reality he has taken on in his mind. Nathan is learning the interplay of this new reality. I didn't say I didn't know what it meant, Nathan, Brad states, stalling as he considers his options. Listen, Nathan. Dan hasn't taken the time to figure out what he is battling. He is chasing mysteries that are unsolvable. He considers the influence he has over others as a reward for his efforts. Nathan sits tentatively listening to Brad, but his words fall empty on his mind as he remains locked on the topic of markings. His facial expression is unaffected by the information Brad is offering. Brad is now having his own mental battle. He has a set plan. This conversation could be forever and always locked away in his heart and mind. Brad doesn't understand why he is even considering approaching the topic. His desire to remain closed isn't based on stubbornness, but a decision based on a sacred oath. Brad's internal conversation questions how Nathan has been able to draw him into wanting to discuss it at all. The chatter in Brad's head speeds up as he attempts to answer the main question that holds back any possibility of disclosure. Why? Why tell Nathan anything? Brad watches as Nathan doesn't shift his position, but appears to be getting more distant. Nathan's innocent stance is now being perceived as a leaning force, placing pressure on Brad to give him what he wants. Brad steps back, a defensive reaction allowing him more space to consider the situation he is in. Although Brad has never been in this particular situation before, the taste of fear is all too familiar. Brad now has a grasp on what he is facing and knows instantly how to handle it. Nathan, come here and sit down. I need to tell you a story. Brad walks towards Nathan, and he does. Brad's body relaxes. Brad realizes at that moment it is not a sacred moment he holds dear. It is the secret he is harboring. He fears that someone might relinquish him of something special if he shares it. Nathan, I have shared a bit of my experience I had with the girl. I shared some of it with Dan. When I returned from leaving her, I was dealing with a new realization. I thought I could trust Dan. He seemed to care about what I had gone through, but when I told him about the markings, his eyes changed. Dan changed. We both had the same information, but we did something completely different with it. Wait, you told him about the markings? I don't understand. I told Dan of markings that I saw when I went with her. She was leading me, Nathan, to my place of rest. What were the markings? What did you see? Nathan, there is something about following her that is personal to each one of us. We see and feel things that allow us to trust her and where we are going. The markings were significant to me, and when I told Dan, he twisted the information. He made an assumption, Nathan. He decided that it was my experience of seeing beyond this island and then deciding to return to the island that created a mark. He began to ramble on and link some of his situations that he had had. Nathan, my explanation was not piercing his perspective. You see? I don't understand why he just wouldn't take in what you had to say. Why would anyone not just listen to your story and the details you experienced as the truth? Nathan, listen to me. This is something you have to understand. She leads us all in our own way. Dan could have listened, yes, but he has his own way, Nathan. It's like he can only see and do his way, not my way. Does that make sense, Nathan? No, Brad, it doesn't. I would listen to whatever you told me. I wouldn't twist it around. How can he hear your story and then make up his own story? Who does that? Brad chuckles in response. Oh, Nathan, we all do that. I don't. I won't. Nathan, how quickly we forget. Brad responds with a smile. What do you mean? Dan told you of his experience of following the girl, yet you perceived it differently, correct? Nathan pauses and remembers how he felt so confused and frustrated with Dan. He wouldn't listen to me. I saw different stuff. I felt different things than he did. Nathan talks through his thoughts as they unfold to him. Yes, Nathan, that's it. That's just it. He isn't being stubborn, Nathan. That is his reality. It's frustrating. Why, Nathan? Because you want him to do as you have? You want him to see the way you do? Well, yeah, what's wrong with that? Nathan, it is no different than if I were trying to force you to see and feel the way Dan is. The boys sit in silence as each process the conversation. The tremoring bed causes Brad to raise his eyebrows at Nathan. So, are we good? Can we go? Yeah, we should go, Nathan responds in a quiet, agreeable tone. Joe and Cameron climb up out of the water onto the pebble-covered shore. Cameron walks forward, following the light through the cavern entrance. About 15 feet into the cavern, Cameron realizes Joe is not with them. He turns around and runs to rejoin Joe by the water's edge. Joe's huge smile on his face expresses his pleasure in his secret discovery. Cameron's race towards the obvious path pleases Joe in his own ability to see what others can't. Now that he has Cameron's attention, he walks towards the rock wall left of the entrance where Cameron just previously entered. End of chapter 38.